Once you get to this little pinky bump, we're going to extend it flat out. That's the back of the hand, back of the palm. And we're going to keep on going until we get to the end of the elbow. How far is that? Maybe 1, 2, 3 hand lengths. Since these are little kids, they don't have very long arms or legs yet. And that top line is going to be a little shorter. And then directly above this hand, we have the other hand that's facing in the other direction, so the fingers are going to be on the other side. But to make sure that I make the hand wide enough, I'm going to give myself some little stem lines on either side. Actually, let's start from the bottom up, so we'll make sure not to run out of room. I'm going to start with that little pinky, not very big at all. We'll add another little fingertip, another fingertip, and our last fingertip. And then on the other side, we'll just round it off. And then you can extend your finger lines to wrap around a little bit. Oops. Some of these fingers are getting a little sausagey, but that's okay because by the time we color it in and redefine the lines, I can fix it later. And I'm going to start the upper part of her arm right from this elbow, going up a little bit at a diagonal. I want to make sure that this lower part of the arm just overlaps a little bit right into that elbow. And then start a little bit from the back and up. And then she has this little leaf sleeve that is going to cut right across her shoulder. And curve all the way around, a little bit like when we see the underside of a roof in Whimsical Houses class, and come right all the way around. As you can see from my note, it needs more contour, so I'm going to round this line. I forgot to do that here. You can see it's pretty flat. I'm going to round it off, come around, and go right to the tip. And following up her shoulder, we'll have a little bit at the top here. That's the pink part of the dress right there. And that'll go up into her neck. The neck will just be a little bit thicker than her upper arm. And then we'll go ahead and draw her collar going all the way around that neck. So I'm not going to draw it to the end of that line. I'm going to draw it around that line. So there's that little bit of overlap. And we can see from foreshortening that this shoulder, the pink part on top, is much, much shorter. And comes down as the top part of her dress. And we'll need one of those fancy green sleeves again on this side. I'm going to try to make sure that the bottom of this sleeve is kind of at the same size level as that one, and this tip kind of at the same elevation. Make them kind of even. Something like that. And then we'll start putting in the flowers. So I'm going to back my camera up here. And we've got three stems. Two of them are going to be flowers, and one of them is going to be the clover. And the clover is kind of sticking out to the side here. So I'm just going to draw these middle lines that become the veins of the leaves, so I can plot out that I want my clover coming out over here. And it has a vein of a leaf that goes there, and a vein of a leaf that goes there. All very lightly, because we might have some lines going over these lines later. I'll keep them very, very light. I think another thing I'm going to change is I'm not going to make them even, because we know even is boring. I'll probably put one blossom higher than the other. So I'll have one come out here and maybe end up right here. I'll just put a little half circle to tell me that's where one blossom's going. The other one I want lower, so maybe I'll put it right here. Super duper lightly. And the stem will come down here. And then the stems are going to stick out on the other side, of course. So I need to pick the flower in the middle there. That one is going to come down and be the longest, just for a nice composition. And then this one is going to be a little shorter. And the third is going to be the shortest. We'll try to get some overlapping where they meet her hand, so that we don't have like three stripes going in. We'll have this one that's on the top, and then this one's just peeking out from behind, and that one's peeking out from behind. I'll add a little thickness to these stems. And you have to be careful and find out where it comes into her hand, because there's no way to make this stem go outside her hand. So this one, that's the outside line, has to remain the outside line and go all the way up to the blossom. The interior line is going to go behind that other stem, so I'm not going to finish it. And my pencil is already too dull to do these fine details, so I'm going to sharpen that. And the stem of this one in front. And the stem of the clover in back, so much so I can't really see much of it. And just lightly around this central vein that we've already drawn, I'm going to draw a little wiggly line. I don't know what type of clover this is, but apparently it has a slight serrated edge on the leaf. The middle one should be the longest vein and the longest leaf. That one's nice and big. And then the last one is going to go behind both stems. Right there. Then we have one blossom that is facing us. We can see the center portion of it, and we have one that's facing away. facing away one is easier, so we're going to start with that one. And in general, they have these rows that you can divide these petals up into kind of levels. And wherever there is one petal on the next row, that petal is going to come right out of the tip and go into the tip of the next for most of this. So on my bottom half here, I can even give myself a guideline. I can say, okay, they're going to go up that much. Super lightly there. And I start drawing the edges of those petals. As we get to the sides, they're going to curve up a little more. I'm going to like cup up on the edges. And as they start rotating and go toward us, we won't see that as much. Start out on the edges here with some curved ones. And then as we get toward the center, a little more up and down. And overall, we want it to make generally a sphere. So if you want to give yourself a slight guideline for how tall this flower needs to be, you can also do that so lightly, barely dragging your pencil on that paper. And just work your way up. Try not to be a machine. Don't just draw every petal the same. We want it to look organic. So that means some of them are going to poke out in odd places, or be skinnier than the rest, or be fatter than the rest. You just want these general rows. And when you get to the top of that sphere, you're just going to draw less petals. So that'll round off the top. I'll leave that there a couple of minutes for you guys to finish up your first clover blossom. All right, now for the one facing us. We can think of it a little bit like just your typical daisy. Right in the middle here, you can see here's a flower like we've drawn a lot. Just that regular little dot in the center with a couple of petals surrounding it. They're just going to curl upwards a little bit. Anytime you have a petal that's facing right at us, it'll just be an oval, just like we were doing with those oar things on top of the roof in whimsical drawing class. And I'm going to add another row. Again, at the edges, we're going to curl it up a little bit. Curl it up a little bit like a cheese puff or a corn chip. I'm just going to keep filling in the sides with those curved petals. And they don't have to all be stuck together. You can make some that have a little space in between. When you get down to the bottom layer, there will be some that actually hang down first and then curl up. So it'll be a little bit out of the guidelines that we set up for ourselves. Kind of dipping below there. And we'll just fill in that overall shape. Don't worry about each individual petal too much, since it will look like a flower in the end. If it's not round enough, you can add another row of petals up at the top. Since we have a lot of ovals, we can always choose a new center, no big deal. And then we're going to work on the face. So right atop of the neck, we're going to put a little chin sticking out just a little bit from that neck. Don't worry if you have lines like me that stick up into the chin. We're going to be coloring her skin later anyway. But even though we can't erase, that mistake won't be noticed once it's finished. I'm going to have her jawline come back here and then attach a little ear. I had her looking down in the first one, but I think I'm going to change it that she's looking up at the flowers because it doesn't really give a very good composition to have her looking down, the leaf pointing that way. It'd be nicer if it all just went in a circle. So sorry that the reference won't be very helpful today. I'm going to go back over here. What do we know about the ear? We know that the top of the ear is the same level as eyebrows. So if I just follow it in an arch, you can give yourself a light guideline or just hover your pencil. We'll put one eyebrow right there.
What if we made the ear pointy? Same thing?
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah, that's fine. Even if it's pointy and you do it a little higher, that's fine.
The great minds, Kristen.
The second eyebrow is going to be much narrower, smushed in because of foreshortening. And we know that the nose connects right to eyebrows. We just don't draw the whole thing. We hover our pencil, and we know that children especially have short noses. I'm going to give a little nose mark. I'm going to draw the whole thing just so you can see the connection. At least I think you can see the connection. Let's zoom in here.
Even though she's looking up?
Yes, she's looking up. And to show that she's looking up, we're going to put her nostril a little lower than we usually do.
Okay.
And when we draw the mouth, we have to remember because she's looking up, everything is curving up. So even though we're not making a frown, we're making a smile, the smile still has to start with a frown right under the nose. And then it can curve up just from perspective. You can give a little corner to the mouth if you want there. And there's her lower lip. So now for eyes, we know eyes go under the eyebrows. But because she's looking up, we're going to curve that bottom part of the eye up just a little bit. Curve that up. You can thicken up the top part of the eye for the eyelash line. And then if your pencil is sharp enough, you can stick in that colored part of the eye right there. Because the other side is covered by that nose, we are not going to see the entire eye. We will only see maybe that much. Probably all of the colored area. And just add a little extra eyelash there. And we remember cheeks. Cheeks are chubby on children, and they usually come from the corner of the eye. So I'm going to round that out. And then round it around the eyebrow. Since most of you are doing pointy ears, I'm going to change mine to a pointed ear here so I can show you the details on the inside. So ignore that little curve. That was my human ear. But just like a human ear, we have that rim on the top. So I'm going to add a little line that just kind of follows that top part of the ear. And then we'll have that little bump. If there's little fairy earbuds, I'll keep it in. And we actually don't want to put too much detail into her ear because remember, when we put a lot of detail, that means we want people to look at it. Like our flowers, look at that. We want people to look at our flowers. We don't want people to look at, the background so much. That's why it's blank. So with her ear, I'm not going to put in too much more detail. Maybe one more line that just kind of comes down from the top. You can do that, or you could do a little U at the bottom, or both, but wouldn't go any farther than that. And we have this disembodied hand right here that has no connection to the body yet. So I'm going to put the bottom part of her arm, just connecting right in there. How do I know where to put it? You just follow the curve of the hand, float your pencil, and wherever it comes out, that's where it's going to be. And then I'll add another line on top. And of course, you can always add little extras that you want to add. You want to put a little earring on, go ahead. You want to put a little crown, just follow her nose up. And there will be a little tiara maybe. Wrap around the head. Around the head.
My flower's pretty much sticking on her head.
Well, then no tiara for her.
Right.
For hairstyle, you can also do whatever you like. In this one, I just gave her a little fro. So you can do braids or buns or ponytails or whatever you want to do. Just a little curl by her ear.
Oh, here I go with the big hair again.
Yep.
It's out of control with me.
Big hair's good.
Yeah.
It takes longer, but
So then for her skirt, we're going to do basically the same kind of curled shape. We're just going to turn it upside down on the edge here. Balloon it out a little bit. Trying to avoid any tangents with those stems. Overlapping my shapes. Meaning my shapes will get skinnier and skinnier as they get to the edges. And for the wings, we have our more triangular upper wing and then our rounder lower wing. I'm just going to stick out the lower wing from somewhere on her arm. And make it a little bit bigger than her skirt so I don't run into any weird tangents. I'm going to wiggle the line of her wings here. Kind of match the clover leaves. And the upper wing is going to come out of her shoulder, behind her hair. Let's say you run out of paper, you only get this far and you run out of paper. That's fine, just go right off the paper. Don't try to squish her wing in to the visible area. Just imagine you're posing for a photograph and you're on the edge and somebody says, oh, just squeeze in, and then you get a scrunched up looking picture. Same thing with drawing. We don't want a scrunched up looking picture, so better to just have it go right off the edge. And on the other side, just like the eyes and eyebrows, if it's this wide on this side, it's going to be narrower on the other side. So you may not be able to see any of her lower wing, or maybe just a very skinny amount maybe coming out from her hand here, but not a whole lot. And then her upper wing, if I imagine it's on her back and it's coming up. Might go behind the flowers here. And it has to end pretty much on that same level as the first one. So yeah, mine's going to be pretty much behind my flowers.
Mine's behind hair and flowers.
Yep, that happens too. Oh, I think I made it too big though. Well, let's just move that lower wing, even it out. There we go. And then legs. Let's move down to legs. Have a little bit of a ballet stance. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can just draw one foot and then mirror it. Just draw a little bit of it behind the other one. I'm going to start with this leg that's in front, her left leg. I'm just going to follow the curve of her back, holding my pencil above my paper, just kind of feeling, well, that's her hip. And it came out of her hip. Her knee will probably be right here, right beneath her skirt. With the knee, the curves are going to face the same direction, but one's going to be big in front and the other's going to be short in the back. I'll put another little interior line to show her kneecap. I'm just going to zoom in here. I think that'll be easier. Then we know the shin is pretty straight. How long do you make it? About the same length as the knee to her hip. Even though we can't see her hip, you can imagine, or you can just even lightly draw if you want, that right underneath the skirt here is the end of her torso. Her legs connecting into that. Her ankle is going to be thin. So I'll start down there, how thin I want it. And then I know there'll be a slight curve because these are children. They don't have big bulking muscles, not yet anyway. So we'll have a gentle curve. And that little ankle bone on the outside. And we remember that the foot just wedges right in between those ankles. I can even draw a little curve in between those ankles. Have the foot come forward on the top there. Behind this ankle, I'm going to start way over here behind. It's going to be the heel. And the outside of the foot will end right in a little baby toe. Then we know the other side of the foot, this wedge coming down here. Actually, I'm going to sharpen my pencil first. It's getting a little wide. Is going to end in a big toe. Relatively, not a big toe, but in comparison to the baby toe. So that's where I want to get to, and there is my kind of shape that I want to fill in. So then I start filling in her toes. Remember, they're going to get skinnier. We're going to see less of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Less of them as they get to the big toe. Skinnier shapes as we get to that big toe. Now, unfortunately, you may have the same problem. One of the petals of her skirt and the front of her leg are the same line. Oh no, tangent alert. That's okay, I'm just going to make that petal a little wider, darken up my line, and I'll blend that in as shading later. And her other leg is going to be the supporting leg, more flat, more like she's standing right on it. It's going to be higher than this foot. It's going to be about ankle height. So if I take that ankle height and I just move it over a little bit, that's generally where her foot is going to be, with her big toe almost touching her first leg there. And we can go ahead and put in that big toe, which again is not that big. It's actually very, very tiny. It'll be the biggest of the toes. Then we have the ball of the foot, so I'll put a little curve right after that. And then we'll have the heel. And I want the size of this foot to be generally the same size as from toe to heel on this foot. You remember that the heel curves, a little Achilles tendon there. Where your shoelaces are, there's that wedge shape. You can even indicate a little ankle if you want to, a little mark there. You know, the ankle is pretty much straight. And we want to make it about the same size as this one. I think mine got a little on the skinny side. That's okay. I'll just widen out my line a little bit. We want her knees to be in generally the same area. We just want a little bit higher on the paper for this one and back. Gentle curve. It's located more at the top. Front shin is going to be pretty straight until you get to that knee. All right, so we've got our line art pretty much done. But I see everybody's heads are down, so I'm just going to leave it there for a minute.
Yeah.
Hey Betsy, do you have the problem, or I don't know if this is a pen or if this is my art program, but I keep saying a thing where when I first press on something, it makes like a little a big blot.
Yeah, I've had that problem too. I don't know if it's me accidentally pressing the button on my stylus or if it's something with the pressure sensitivity, but most of the time I just have to back up and try again.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, if it does it repeatedly, I mean, really, you can just restart, but I haven't been able to find a reliable way to stop that yet. Okay, we're ready to color a little bit. We're gonna need some greens. If you have yellow greens, that would be great. If you don't, you can get a yellow and the green that you have, and you can layer them. Just on a scratch piece of paper here, I'll show you the different. Oh, yeah, there's one of my failed ones. What the difference is between having a bright green versus having to layer. So this is the only kind of yellowish green I have. It's pretty neon, which is not my favorite, but you know, that's the color I've got. Whoops, let's darken it a little bit so you can see the actual color. Let's say you don't have that. Let's say you only have this kind of green, which is very different, darker, bluer. But if you happen to have a yellow pencil too, Let's get a yellow here. We're talking about layering. Let's say I put down some yellow first. Then come back over it with that same green. Whoa, different color. Hopefully you'll be able to see on camera. Very different color from just the regular pure pencil to the green on top of yellow. So what does this mean? This means more work because you have to do 2 layers, right? But it will give you a yellower green if you don't have one. If you only have this kind of dark green, go ahead and do yellow and green. Alrighty, so we need the yellow green because our clover is not a real deep dark green in our master drawing, which we're not actually going off of today, but in case we were. So I'm going to use my lime green and color in the leaves except for this sort of ring in the middle.
Oh.
There's a little bit of a lighter tone there. So if I just make kind of an oval at the base of the leaf, and then color the outer edge of the leaf and leave just kind of a ring, a little crescent moon in the middle. That's where my lighter color is going to go. I don't have a lighter color of this green, so what can I do? I can put down my yellow first. And then put my yellow green or my green right on top of it. So that yellow will show through and it'll still keep that color difference without being bright yellow. I'm going to do that to all 3 of these leaves. Just color in an oval at the base. Coloring the edge. Leaving that little bit in the middle. Coloring my yellow in that little crescent moon area, and then just lightly over it with the green. Just make those colors merge a little more. This leaf behind all these other stems, I don't have to watch out for the stems. I can color right over them because they will be a darker green. So I don't have to waste my time trying to get in between them. And for the stems of the blossoms, I want a little bit darker green. Let's pretend I don't have a darker green. I can just take that chocolate brown that we used for the lines, lightly color on the inside, and that will make my green darker.
So you're doing that before the green?
Yes, before the green. Putting down that brown before the green. And then I'll color over the top.
So you're using the very same yellow green, but over the
Yep.
brown.
Yep, just in case you don't have a different color green, you can just put that brown on. It'll look a little bit more like a pine green or an olive green. I might color a little bit of brown near the base of the leaves here, just like a shadow, to give that a little bit of color difference. The color right under this leaf, overlapping that bigger leaf. Pop it forward a little bit.
I like the green on top of the brown. That's quite a nice green.
All right. I'm going to get a kind of a peachy pink for the blossoms. If you don't have a peachy pink, you can get an orange and just color very lightly. Or you can just get a regular pink and no big deal. And as we've done before, we're going to color in the bottom row really, really full and with some medium pressure. The next row, we're going to be a little bit lighter with our touch. And we'll just do this fading effect all the way up the blossom until we get to the top, and they'll be pretty much white at the top. I'm going lighter, lighter, lighter. So right now I have this one dark row and then everything else is pretty much the same color. So I have to come back to the second row and maybe add another layer. Not pressing too much harder. I just need to strengthen that color a little bit by adding one more layer. You can also color down just this green stem just a little bit to just put in a little bit of that pink fading into the green. Stop that color isolation. You don't want it to just be like green and then stop and then pink. You want a little bit of blending, transition one from another.
Oh, I didn't quite get that when you first explained it. Now I get it.
All right.
Transitioning. Excellent.
Yeah, it's a transition. Same thing with this flower, but we're basically going to have the stronger color on just that left edge, and then it'll get lighter toward the center. We use these same colors for her dress. Her skirt is going to be mostly the same colors that we used on the clover and the stems, and then the bodice of the dress is going to be the same color as the blossoms. But I'm going to need a shading color for her bodice, and I don't have a darker peach, so I'm just going to use my brown and put in some little texture lines just going up and down the bodice. Kind of a wrinkled texture, I guess. And to curve around her body. We're not going just straight up and down like jail bars. And around her shoulder. And just in general, I'm going to put down a light layer of brown under her arm where there will probably be shadow, her arm blocking out any light. And also a little bit on the front of her stomach here. And I'll sharpen my peach and lay that color along the top. I'm going to purposefully bleed my peach a little bit past the line into the skirt. Even though there's going to be green there. Later, I want my layering to happen, so we'll put a little bit of peach beyond the bodice line.
Max.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to try it, normally when we're doing straight hair, we flick from one end and we flick from the other end and we leave the middle as a shine. You can do the same thing on her bodice if you'd like. You can start from the shoulders, flick downward, start from her stomach, flick upward, and then leave the center part a little lighter and it'll look shiny. Or color the whole thing. It's up to you. No wrong answers. And for her sleeves, I'm going to do a little bit of the same thing like we did on the leaves. I'm going to have a little bit of color right near her armpit here, right at the bottom. Color on the top. And I'm going to leave the center portion alone so that I can put in some yellow. And I'll go right over the top of that yellow with my green, just the same as we did with the clover leaf. On the inside, I want it darker because of shading, but I don't have a darker green. What do? I just fill it in a little bit with the brown and then go over it with the green.
Like that.
If it's not dark enough, come back with your brown. Do another layer. Oh, it's too brown? Come back with your green. And I'll do the same thing on the other sleeve. A little bit of green at the bottom, green at the top, a little space in the middle. Color that in yellow, and then color over the top with green. If you feel like these are too much of the same color and you want to push that back one a little farther back into space, what do? You just grab your brown or even the pink and you can just lightly color over it And it'll darken the color just enough to kind of push that one to the back and let this one stay the brightest. Then we'll move down to the skirts. I'm going to use that same brown that I used for the lines and just lightly color in the center of each of these leaf, sepal type leaves. Going down that center line. And anytime one of them is overlapping another one, there'll probably be a shadow, so you can just thicken up that line a little bit. Thicken up that line. Leave them skinny at the top where they're very close together. And just thicken up the line kind of near the bottom where the light would cast a larger shadow. And just like we did with the sleeve and the clover leaf, we're going to have that middle band a lighter color, that yellow, so that we can see kind of the bending of the leaf. So we'll have green at the top, green at the bottom, and a little stripe of yellow in the middle. If it's faster, you can also just color the stripe of yellow first and then go over the whole thing with green. But we don't want it, again, to be just a horizontal bar. I'm looking at each leaf individually, trying to find the curviest part of the curve. That's where the light is going to hit. So for some, it might be a little higher, for some, a little bit lower. It won't zigzag a whole bunch, but it might vary a little bit from leaf to leaf. I'm coloring a whole leaf, even these pink parts up at the top, going right over it, right over the yellow, right over the brown shadows, right to the edge of my lines. If there's still too much of an abrupt change from pink to green, you can just take your pink pencil and color right over the top of some of these leaves. And you get lighter in your pressure, lighter, 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 lighter as it goes down. Definitely stop coloring before you get to that yellow stripe.
Be right back.
Okie doke. If you want to show a little curl in those leaves, curling back at the bottom, you can get your pink and just color the tips. For her skin tone, I'm actually going to use the same peach as the bodice of the dress and put down a whole layer of that first. And I'm going to get a regular red and do our normal thing where we give a little more color to the elbows, fingers, cheeks, nose, all those things.
Would you say about the skin, put down brown first?
Peach, the same peach as her dress bodice,
Got it.
is going to be the underlayer for her skin tone. Then I've got a little bit of red, not pressing too hard, but a little bit of red at the elbows and the fingertips. Then I'm going to take that same brown that I used for the lines and go over almost all of it. We're going to use that same technique that we've been using where we leave a little bit of the different color in the middle. I'm going to do that same fading effect, coloring with the most pressure on the outside, getting lighter, lighter, lighter towards the center. On her hand, I'm just going to color in the whole thing since it's turning away from us. And if your lines get lost in all these colors, we just grab our dark chocolate brown, or you can use the same brown and press harder. But I don't want my lines to get too thick, so I'm going to use a darker brown and just add a little bit. Teeny little line. Just enough to distinguish her hand from, or her arm from her dress. Maybe a little shadow right under her sleeve here, so I'll put another layer of color right in there. If it's looking too flat, you can actually grab your green and put a little green in the shadow. I'll repeat that skin process with her legs. I'm going to grab my peach, color the whole thing. If your marks are starting to look like a crayon more than a pencil, you know you have to sharpen it. I've got my peach color down. I grab my red and just lightly blush up the knees, ankles, toes. I'll grab my chocolate brown, pressing the hardest near the edges and a little lighter as I get to the center. If you don't like that effect, if it's just looking like she's got striped skin, then don't do it. Just color in the whole thing. We only have about 10 more minutes. I don't know if we'll finish the whole thing together. Would you guys rather do the face and hair or the wings?
Face and hair.
What do the wings look like? Show us the wing picture.
The wings, they were basically just a little kind of a stripy pattern. I mean, you could do whatever butterfly wings you want. You could do monarch. You could do, you know, another, what are those ones that are mostly white with just a little bit of black? Cabbage? What are cabbage butterflies? Cottage butterflies? Something like that? Really common.
I have confidence. We can do both.
All right, we'll go through. We'll do both. I'm going to keep repeating this skin process then.
I'm just not sure how to distinguish the skin from the hair.
Here's the skin from the hair. The hair is probably going to have an undercoat of brown and then black on top, or you can do navy blue first and then black on top, depending on the tone of the hair. Or you mean because it's a curly texture?
Uh-huh and uh-huh.
Okay, both.
Yeah,
everything. All of
exactly. That's my question.
All the same principles, just a little bit different application. We'll get it.
How do you do those lips? You put the red on just the top line, or?
Now the lips, you can put a little color on the bottom lip here. Because she's looking up, the top lip will be really thin, so sometimes I don't even bother putting color on the top lip. It's just so thin. Put a little red on her nose, cheeks. This is where the blood is closest to the skin, so we get a little flushed there. And a little on the ears if you like. Come back with my brown. Coloring at the edges, lighter in the center. So maybe I should explain why we have this extra step with darker skin. When we're doing lighter skin tones, the paper color and the skin tone color are close enough that we can't see as many of the little white specks because our paper has a little bit of texture. We've got all these white specks in the color that we lay down. Not as noticeable with lighter skin tones, but with darker skin tones, it's very noticeable. So we have to put down some kind of color to darken the paper right away. And then the more layers that we add, the more of those little white specks will be covered up and we'll get a purer color. So a little bit of an extra step. When you put your skin tone into her face, you'll probably lose your nose detail, lips detail. That's where you have to grab your darker brown. If you don't have a darker brown, you'll have to use black. It's not my favorite color to use just because it's so harsh, but you got to use what you got.
How do you do that square around her? Just block it out and fill it in?
Yeah. Let me back up here. If you want the word Clover like I did, I wrote the word Clover first, and then I just connected it.
And then colored it. Okay.
And yeah, and then colored it in. If you don't want that word, then just don't put it. And you can use a ruler. No shame in using a ruler. If you want them nice and straight, you can block it out that way.
Did you use black for the word Clover or just brown again?
No, just the same brown that I used for her skin. Or the lines of the skin. Chocolate brown, our favorite chocolate brown. Darken her face detail a little bit there. The same thing for the hair. Let's say I want the hair to be black. If I just color it black, it won't be good. It'll just be, where's my black pencil? Try to just color it black. Oops, I think this is blue. Is this blue? No, it's black. You have all those little white flecks in there, but if I put a layer of anything down first, it can be blue first, it can be brown first, it could be purple first. Then you put the black on top. Because we have that layering, there's far less of those white specks that show up. So that's the difference between that. I mean, you could just press harder or do lots of layers of this black, but then we have the problem that we were talking about before where our colors are too separated. And it's so harsh to have this brown skin and then just suddenly black hair. So I think I'll put an undercoat of that brown that we used for the lines as my first base color. We probably won't get to it in any of our classes, but once you get super advanced and you're doing a portrait of a fairy in moonlight or something like that, everything has a blue undertone. Even if it's your red dress, you'd put down blue first just to cool that red down into that blue light. So it can get pretty fun once you get into different lighting conditions. But since we only have 4 minutes left, not today.
4 minutes.
Wings.
Wings.
Where does the time go?
I know. So for wings, let me jump over real quick. I don't think this was based on a real butterfly, but you're going to grab 2 colors. If you want to use the same palette that we've been using, use your pink that you used for the blossoms, and then pick something that's close to pink, maybe yellow, maybe red. maybe you can push it and go a little bit purple if you want. But our general setup here, let me use my peach, is going to be funny looking letter Y's. So I have my one line coming up here. I'll darken that so you can see it. And then we kind of have a branch that comes off and it makes the letter Y. Then we do it again, except the Y is going to happen a little sooner so that they're different. And every once in a while you can connect these two up so you have a little game of like chutes and ladders or something where they connect up. Cross-connecting some highways there, something like that. And that's the general pattern that's going to go on this wing. If you want to, you can reverse the Y. You can have two of them meet and turn into one. Do the very same thing for the bottom wings. We're just trying to avoid candy cane stripes. We don't want them all even. We want to break them up into different size areas. You can actually just leave it like this, just white wings with the pink veins, or you can do your fading effect with your pink. Have it pink near her back and lighter at the edges. Kind of matches the clover blossoms. Did you ever come back, Nikki, or do you just not know that your mic is muted?
She didn't come back yet.
I guess she didn't come back yet.
How are you shading the? Is that a black pencil?
No, this one's really, really dark brown, sepia. Whoops. But if you only have black, that's fine.
Oh, I like it.
Gotta use what you have. This one's like my dark chocolate brown rather than my milk chocolate brown. There are not a lot of sets of pencils. They only give you one brown, so you have to make do. So for her hair, I'm leaving the outside rim that brown. Oh, looks so pretty. I'll have to add another layer to it here. And every once in a while, I do a little curl, a little zigzag, show the curly texture. But for the most part, the darker color will be toward the center, and then we'll get lighter as more light is able to shine in between the hair. It'll be lighter on the edges. I'll be able to see the effect a little better, actually, if I back up here.
I like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's better. Yeah. Weird.
Okie dokie, it's 6:30. Any questions?
How do you get the, if you don't want to leave it white, just a light on the side pencil over the wings?
You can do a fading effect. We can do it together right now.
Well, I'm finally back.
Hey!
Yeah.
It's like
Say
it's
goodbye.
over class time. Never mind, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah, we've been
Oops.
stalling her. We've been holding on to her.
I like your drawing, Betsy.
thank you.
So,
Hello? Is
Hello,
my thing
hello.
going?
Success. Wow.
I want to see yours, Kristen.
Yes.
I know we're over Betsy's
fun.
time.
Ooh, very nice.
Wow.
The
I
skirt
inked
works
it
really
again.
well.
I like the inking.
You like the ink? All
I-
right.
I like the ink. So let's see what's
Media.
next got.
Well, I'm not as far as you, but
Let's see.
Oh, look at her, so cute. I like her little lifted leg there.
yeah,
You're getting braver.
Oh,
not
yes.
stopping.
braver.
Big hair. Oh, the great. I see how your flowers, you just make really big flowers. So she needed big hair.
I did. Big hair, big flowers, big girl. Okay.
Dancing. So fun.
Fun, Betsy. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I hope you guys are thinking about the flower and butterfly that you'll be using for your own fairy at the end of August.
A flower.
Yep, got to pick a flower. If you want something easy, get a daisy. If you want
Hey, can
something
you guys
hard, get
hear
a
me now?
rose.
I'm going to cheat because right above my computer,
Okay, bye.
I have this.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh, there you go.
Now we know.
Now we
Oh,
know.
that is beautiful.
It's cross stitch, believe it or not.
Huh.
No,
Oh.
I didn't do it.
That is amazing.
You can do another master study. Anything you want to show us, Mickey, before we leave?
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
What-
well, I think I swore earlier because I thought you couldn't hear me. My bad.
Yeah.
You didn't
We
hear
were
it?
going to mention it. Have
Yeah, sorry.
you got something to show us?
No, nothing.
Oh, well.
Next
Maybe
time.
Friday.
Maybe Friday.
Oh, Friday is fun.
I had so many interruptions. I'm surprised I got even a pencil mark on my paper.
I know, we
We
saw you
did.
getting up and leaving a couple times there. I wasn't sure what was going on. Figured something with gardeners or
And
or
grandchildren calling and
children calling. There you go.
Jimmy escapes.
All the things that can.
dogs going, we're hungry. It's not time. Thank you
Okay.
guys.
Thank you guys.
Bye.